And good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen.
I'm Andrea Anderson. Substance abuse continues to be an issue that affects communities of all sizes, and Sioux Falls is no exception. Officials tonight, though, say they are continuing to see progress thanks in part to the Link Community Triage Center. In fact, it was the topic of discussion during this afternoon's City Council informational meeting. Bailey Peterson in studio with our 10 o'clock top story tonight. Bailey.
Brian and Andrea, the goal of the Link is to be a safe place for people experiencing a nonviolent behavioral health crisis or substance abuse disorders. Today, counselors received an update on the impact the Link is having. Since opening its doors in 2021, the Link has had more than 8,300 triage encounters and served more than 1,400 individuals. The center has become known for its resources and partnerships across the community, taking weight off other organizations in the area. Officials say the Link's impact has already been seen in the brief time it's operated.
Jail bookings are down significantly, stays in ERs are down significantly, and the Link is meeting a lot of those needs of patients who otherwise either wouldn't have gone anywhere or would have gone to maybe the incorrect place.
The Sioux Falls Police Department sees this impact regarding the number of cases that they have seen, especially relating to alcohol and drugs.
We are defying national trends like we talked about last year, where we're seeing a decrease in some of these cases. Now, keep in mind, these are overdose cases that are reported to law enforcement that we respond to, and everyone that we know we go to. And so these numbers are going to be the same for year to year. Our overdoses are down dramatically, especially if you look back to 2019 and the decrease from that time.
Collaboration between the systems will be the focus as work continues to improve the Link.
We've got a long-term financial challenge. We've got 4 partners currently, and we've got to determine, are all 4 partners staying at the current levels? Are they going to increase? Or how are we going to meet that gap in the growing years ahead?
As well as other challenges to the recovery process.
Transitional housing will certainly be one of those gaps, and we've had conversation around what could that look like, or is there ways to meet that?
The Link is open 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary for those wanting services. Brian and Andrea.
Bailey Peterson.